Hey everyone, happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and welcome
Ho,
to
ho, ho.
the Jeff Heilman Project. My name is Jessica Heilman, and I am your friend. And along with me, as
That's a John
another
Maxwell
good
quote, by the way.
friend, is Jeff
I'll try
Heilman.
to be your friend. I don't know.
And as your friends with today's topic, we're going to be talking about overcoming loneliness during the holiday season. And we would love to be able to encourage you to message us, leave us a comment, however you text us or however you would like if you're feeling down at all this holiday season, because we would love to be able to extend our reach to you and let you know you are not alone.
If you're feeling too down, you should call somebody because we're not therapists. But we will be happy to respond to your counsel. But there are a lot of people, if you're really down, I'm just saying, if you're really down, folks, like we care about you, but we may not be able to help you in what you need. So,
but if you're just looking for a,
how you doing? We can help you with that. No
how you
problem.
doing? How you getting through the holidays? We're here for you, and we would love to be able to hear from you.
Absolutely
Being a mom of lots of children myself, through the blood-related and through extended family and friends, our doors are usually open to friends of friends and anyone. I remember one year we had, I think we had like 12 stockings hung because Ian had never had a Christmas stocking. Gage had never had a Christmas.
Okay.
Well, It wasn't because they were anti-stock. It wasn't a tradition in their home to have stockings. They had plenty of Father Christmas and Joie de Noël, but they just didn't have a stocking. And so I remember making a stocking for him.
That's crazy. That's great.
And this last Thanksgiving, hopefully everyone had a fantastic Thanksgiving. We
hope you did.
30 people at the house, and I made 3 turkeys and a ham. And
yeah, you did. You cooked up a storm. That was great.
As family type people, we've also come to realize that not everybody is family. Not everybody puts family first. Not saying it's a bad thing. They just don't necessarily
just different values. Like not everybody has the same values for spending time together as a family. Some people are like, hey, I had you over for a 6-pack 3 weeks ago.
Some people just think their idea of a vacation is just being alone on a deserted island. They don't want to have people around. And I would hope to encourage you to evaluate the people in your life and don't feel too bad if they aren't reaching out to you, because they just might not be connected or relationship type people, because everyone is different. How would you encourage somebody, honey, who's like needing a pick me up when it comes to relationship?
I don't need the holidays to feel alone. I feel alone most of the time as an entrepreneur.
Those deeper feelings that are felt during this time of year specifically.
I think that if we look at what we're dealing with the holidays, the feelings around the holidays, it's dopamine. It's chemicals. It's oxytocin and dopamine and norepinephrine and serotonin levels in your blood. I would direct you to Andrew Huberman's podcast on dopamine. If you look at what we're chasing a feeling, and the feeling is made up of chemicals, and the chemical is dopamine. There are so many things that you can do to feel better by getting your dopamine levels right, like sleeping,
and
going for a walk. I've done today, just to give you an example, I'm at 4.1 miles for today. I did 5.7 miles yesterday, probably 3 or 4 miles the day before. I did 6 miles the day before that. I'm going to go play golf tomorrow afternoon. And I've been to the gym twice and lifted. So I'm physically working my body. I'm lifting heavy things. I'm going for long walks.
Yeah, recognizing that winter also, our days are shorter. It's darker. You're not getting the sun rays. I would highly suggest self-care during this month and next month is so pivotal. If you need to go, you might go to a tanning bed and get some really nice warm light. Get some of those red light
friends
beds.
That have tanning salons. I've got friends
salons.
That do.
Some of the gyms, like I think Fitness 19 has those tanning beds in there that you can go and stand and really treat yourself during these short days. And dark nights and the
sunset
cold
right
weather.
Now is at 4:40. right in the afternoon, like it's in Sweden or something.
To treat yourself really kindly. I think that I feel like Andrew and I were just having a conversation about this, about how we've noticed, because grandma died in December, grandpa died in December, like it seems that there are more actual natural deaths during the winter months, and the reality is our immune system gets lower. We're less active because we're so active that we push through. A lot of times during the summer and the hotter days, you'll like ignore symptoms and you'll just push through, and then finally you'll come to the end of the harvest season and you'll finally sit down and relax, and then your whole body seems to go to pot. And it's like, keep moving, keep getting out there, don't let the sun going down keep you from being those evening walks or being active, and like you were talking about with the serotonin and the dopamine. And
and another thing too, like take a I'm sure you guys get junk mail. Anybody get junk mail? I get junk mail like 50 times a day. But if I'm going to get junk mail, I'm going to use it to my advantage. So one of the things is just take out an envelope and just write down 10 things that you want. And if you did that a couple of days in a row, pretty soon you're going to be like, Lamborghini keeps showing up. Well, there's something to that. What is that? Polo. I want to learn how to play polo. I want a Lamborghini. I want to be in the best shape I've ever been in my life. I squatted 185 yesterday for the first time in like 3 or 4 years. It's been a while since I did that much. It was a lot of weight for me because I'm a tall, long lifter at 6'5". But I'm really pushing myself to walk, try to walk 3, 4, 5 miles a day, pushing myself to hydrate, pushing myself to sleep 10 hours if I need to, giving myself huge chunks of windows, and upgrading the narrative. Narrative is made up of ones and zeros. The ones are facts. The zeros are opinions. The zeros that are negative in our lives, our negative opinions of ourselves, are like pancreatic cancer. They will absolutely destroy your self-image, and they're not even true. And the crazy thing is, most people try to work against or fight against the facts in their narrative that they can't change, and the facts are fine. Okay, so you did drugs. Okay, so you had an abortion. Okay, so you lived on Skid Row for 10 years. Your brain knows those things to be true. It's not threatened by the things it knows to be true. It's threatened by the things that are not true in our minds that we think are true, but are malleable. But in their narrative, they're hooked to the actual facts. More information on that, Jim Lair's book, Power Story. Also, The Power of Full Engagement, which is Jim Lair and Tony Schwartz. Tony Schwartz was the co-author of a couple of books, actually, with Jim Lair, and business partner for him. But the narrative comes down to the people that you're spending time with. It comes down to how do you feel. It comes down to what you're eating, the chemical reactions going on in your body, the narrative that you have, the story that you tell yourself about yourself, made up of facts, made up of opinions. Obviously, there's going to be some nostalgia around the holiday activities. And if malls trigger you, stay away from them, right? Order online. If you don't want to go and be around negative people that you don't like during the family, do a Zoom call with them. Say you'll be there for an hour over Christmas dinner over Zoom.
We always, to your point about the being around family, is we always make sure to have either something else to do, like okay, well, we need to leave. We agree on a hard stop time, like 5 o'clock.
Correct.
Like we're gonna go. We're gonna make an appearance, but we got to be out by 6, or we got to be out. So it's when you leave open-ended.
Yep.
And don't set expectations that there tends to be a problem.
Yeah,
an offense.
Another thing too, when you're dealing with the hours, I forget the name of the guy. I think it might have been Shackleton, but it might have been a different guy. But one of the guys that was a pole explorer, either South Pole or North Pole, they were trying to figure out how do we deal in a 24-hour daylight situation. South Pole in the winter, North Pole in the summer. And they had a regimented time scheduled that regardless of what time the sun went down, or even if it didn't, you would sweep the South Passage at 10 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, 6 o'clock at night. You would rebuild the blocks that got knocked down by the wind. You would feed the dogs at a certain time. You would have meals at a certain time, getting yourself on a schedule. I happen to have a biphasic schedule, which some people think is weird. I think it tends to work really well, and it gives me what I call mosaics, which are 3.5-hour blocks of time throughout the day that I can have incredible amounts of dopamine and serotonin level restoration. Not anybody's business what I do with my time, but I'll give it to you anyway because I think it's interesting. My number one mosaic time, the most important part of my day, is the time in between Mosaic 2 and Mosaic 6, which is from 1 in the morning until 4 in the morning. That is where my subconscious mind is synchronizing everything that I do. So my Mosaic 6 is I read and study and work on content creation and business mastery principles from 6 in the evening until 1 in the morning. And I'm coming up with ideas. I'm germinating. I'm working. I'm reading white papers. I'm just study for about 5 or 6 hours of deep work. And then I sleep for 3 hours from 1 to 4 o'clock, for 1 to 4 o'clock. Then my alarm, typically, I don't need an alarm, but I get up at 4 o'clock in the morning. And then I work on the biggest constraint for my business between 4 in the morning and 7:30 in the morning. That is maker time. I learned that from Alex Hormozy, who said that he went from a $2 million net worth to a $100 million net worth in 2 years by starting to apply biphasic sleep and the concept of maker time and manager time as separate periods of the day. My business, living on the West Coast, I do a lot of business in Israel, in Europe, in South America, which is 4 hours ahead, and almost everything on the East Coast. So my day, there's really not much to do after around 12 or 1 in the afternoon from a customer response perspective because all my customers are in Europe or the East Coast of North or South America. So what I do is I go hard for maker time, which is working against the biggest constraint between 4 in the morning, 7:30 in the morning. Then I click over. I put the abstract away and I go to my daily founder operating system starting at 7:30 in the morning. And I kick off with taking the biggest constraint, going through the calendar, looking at all the stuff that needs to be prepped for. And I go through my daily standard operating procedure, my daily founders OS from 7:30 in the morning until 11. That's a 3.5-hour period of time. Then I take a break. Then from 11 to 2, I do some sort of recovery activity. Then from 2:30 until 6 p.m., I sleep. That's the first sleep. It's actually Mosaic 5. And then I wake up fully rested, and I go hardcore on reading and studying and getting better at my business from 6 until 1 o'clock. Go to bed, have my second sleep from 1 o'clock to 4 o'clock. It's religious. It's a schedule. It's the same time every day. And as I start to do that, as we start to adjust our circadian rhythms, that resets your dopamine, oxytocin, norepinephrine, and serotonin levels automatically. Add that to hydration, add it to walking, add it to narrative, add it to hanging out with the right people, speaking about the right things, reading, studying, starting to build a plan, writing down goals. All of a sudden you start to see, okay, maybe I can survive the holidays. I just thought everybody did that. Isn't that what everybody does? I didn't know.
Jack Canfield talks about in his book, The Success.
I like Jack.
I forget what it's like, the 22 Success Principles. It was a fantastic book. He talks about allowing things to take rent in our mind and what happens to your brain. It's when, like Jeff said earlier about having, you can deal with the facts of what has happened in the past because they're facts. But when you have things taking up rent in your mind, or when you have unsolved mysteries, that's kind of what it's like. If you haven't reasoned with things and sat down and actually thought about why things happened, or prayed or meditated on something happening, or just let it go, it will take rent in your mind, and it'll be something like an unsolved mystery that you just won't you just have a very difficult time getting over. And I've found a lot of times during the holidays when people it's because it happens, the same every year. It keeps coming back, circling back, and people are having to face again. And even when you have January coming up with your New Year's resolutions is such a key thing for people, and they look to the next year, at the end of the year, going into the next year, a lot of people circle back. It's a time for circling back and going over. And so when you've got unresolved issues, when you've got unsolved mysteries, when you have relationships that are open-ended or things taking up rent in your mind that you keep carrying every year the same, you circle back to what granddad did, in 1972, or you circle back to what your mom did in 2001, and you just haven't quite gotten over it yet, then that also becomes a lonely attribute, a seed of sadness, a seed of depression, a seed of loneliness. And so, if I could encourage you to take out a piece of paper, write down, Jeff's encouraged us many times in the past podcasts about having your what's fact, what's fiction, getting a piece of paper, writing down what is the fact, what actually occurred, what is fiction, which is that thing that you're telling yourself about that fact.
Absolutely.
And then help
folks,
yourself to where...
This is where depression comes from.
Yeah. Help yourself to where 2026, you're no longer having things taking up rent in your mind. You no longer have any unsolved mysteries. You're able to move on to the new year, the end of this year, have joy again, choose joy, have the peace of mind that says all the doors are closed and I'm ready to open up to a new year.
I'll give you an example. These are facts in my life. My parents are divorced. My parents did drugs. My parents had plenty of booze around the house and consumed on a regular basis. I have a stepbrother who died of a drug overdose after he got out of prison. I used to live in my car. I have eaten out of the trash. I have been homeless for periods of my life. We have been broke for 10 years of our marriage. We have nearly been evicted multiple times. I have been fired, laid off, or gone out of business 35 times. These are facts. I can't change any of these facts. And the truth is, I have no problem sharing this with people on the other end of the universe about these things, because I understand that it's not the facts that we need to be afraid of. It is the unchecked opinion that says, my parents did drugs, so I'm probably a loser. Not true. Not even true or not true. It's an opinion. My parents were alcoholics, so I'm going to be an alcoholic. Also not true. My brother went to jail, so I'm going to go to jail. No, that's not true. That's an opinion. My brother died of an overdose, so I'm going to die of an overdose. Nope. That's an opinion. Right? But if I had those opinions that I'm a loser, I'm going to be an alcoholic, I'm going to go to prison, I'm going to be a drug addict, if I had those opinions in my head, my mind would actually work toward making those things happen, even though the thing that's making them happen is not the facts. Because all of those things are true for them, and none of them are true for me. So what's the difference? The difference is I have a different set of opinions in my head associated with the same facts that my other three brothers had, all growing up in the same household. So when we start to realize that the public enemy number one is the unchecked BS opinions that we have in our minds, wrapped, hooked in our narrative to the things that are actually true. Mom came over for Christmas, dad drank too much, so-and-so got arrested. Those are all facts, maybe, right? But when we have opinions that are tied to those facts and they go unchecked negatively as pancreatic cancer in our nervous system, it screws with our narrative unbelievably, and it starts to form. That is literally the foundation for self-limiting beliefs.
What do those Dianetics people call that? Audits. Yeah, you got to do your audit.
Do your audit. Leave your
Take
Scientologist at home, by the way.
We're not advocating for Scientology, but the auditing is a critical, important part, because even if you're a believer, the scripture talks about renewing your mind. And so you need to take time to renew. It takes time to renew your mind. It literally means to, wash away those opinions and renew, replace, and restore, because your mind is hurting.
From the Christian perspective, you could say, and again, not everybody on this podcast is Christian. We happen to be Christian. It's not a Christian podcast, but we happen to be Christians. But from a Christian perspective, you could say, well, what's the Bible say? Now, if you're a Christian, that's like the Bible is like it, right? It's the word of God. It is the highest authority. And so if you're doing or saying or thinking something that is contrary to the word of God, that's the word of God is the standard. The Quran for Muslims, the Torah for the Jews, and the books of the prophets too.
And there's Book of Mormon. I mean, there's all kinds
the Book of
them.
Mormon. If you live in Utah, Book of Mormon is the standard, right? I mean, you don't have to live in Utah. You could live in Hawaii too, or Portland, or Idaho. I think those are the hot spots because I got the colleges, the campuses.
Yes.
But whatever the standard is, if you believe in you're being a good person, quit being an ass to yourself with your messed up narrative that has got you thinking some sort of life-limiting belief because you didn't do the work to raise your standard of excellence around the opinions. My opinions of myself are, I'm a good guy. I'm a good dad. I do right by my family. Well, yeah, but your brother went to jail. Yeah, sucks to be him. Right? That has nothing to do with me. That has nothing to do with me. He's just a guy that made some bad decisions that happened to live in the same household as I did growing up. Has nothing to do with my narrative. And I hope that just the same as my brother going to jail has nothing to do with my narrative, my brother going to jail has nothing to do with your narrative either. Nor does anybody else's BS in their life have anything to do with the narrative that you get to put in your head that says, I'm awesome. I get to look in the mirror and say, I'm a good guy. I'm doing right by my family. I'm taking care of my responsibilities. I pay a ton of bills and a ton of tax. The biggest check I write is to pay for other people's lives in the form of taxes. I spend more money on taxes than anything else in my entire life on top of my life. So if I look at that and I say, these are the facts, this is the evidence that I can see that says that I'm a good guy, I'm doing right by my family, I protect people, I keep people safe, I provide food, clothing, and shelter for 9 people, 2 dogs and 2 cats, that's enough evidence to remove the self-limiting beliefs. So when we get the narrative right and you get rid of the self-limiting beliefs, then you get out there and walk. You don't need to run 20 miles a day, but for goodness sakes, walk for 30 minutes, 40 minutes, 50 minutes. You'll feel amazing when you're done. You'll start wanting to lift better. You'll start wanting to eat better. You'll start wanting to sleep more and better and deeper. Then you cut the negative people that you're spending time with. You upgrade your narrative, start to write down goals and put plans in place for what you want to do. And then tell mom, dad, hey, we'll do a Zoom call, right? I don't want to, no offense. I'd love to drive 12 minutes to come see you, except that everybody's a horse's ass and drunk anyway. So I'm not going to do it. I'd rather stay home and read a positive mental attitude book so I can work on myself. Folks, I'm telling you, I've been at this 30 years. I had never read a positive book. I had never heard a positive tape. I had never watched a positive show. I used to laugh at Robert Schuller coming on Sunday morning. Hour of Power. What the hell is that? I should have known. I found out later. I had never heard any positive doctrine or gospel about God at all in my entire life till I was 20 years old, with the exception of a few verses in Luke in the Charlie Brown Christmas special from Linus. Like, if you're getting ministered to by a guy that sucks his thumb and carries a blanket, something is off. I did not start out. I had acne. I had long hair. My teeth were all messed up. I was 6'5", 170 pounds soaking wet. I had a horrible attitude, horrible self-image. I had parents who were drinking and on drugs, smoked cigarettes. My stepmom used to smoke like she was on fire and drink like she was trying to put it out. Unhealthy, bad habits, bad attitudes. Ripped us up one side and down the other, was horribly critical. Home life was really rough. Yanked around 2 days here, 3 days there. And that was before I became homeless. Being homeless, at least I was free. I could sleep in any car I wanted to, as long as it was open or I could break the window. When you look at a savage existence, which is really what it was, a savage existence, primal, just survival in the highest degree. And yet, when you start to read books by people who take time to organize their thought process about what it took to be successful in their course of employment, and they took the time to write, and they took the time to create, and they took the time to edit, and they shopped it to publishers, and a publisher said, this person has a story or a message or a principle or something that we could put down that will potentially sell, that was successful enough to be sold in a bookstore. Like, you think about how magical that is for somebody to actually get a book into somebody's hands, out of somebody's brain, across the centuries, the distilled wisdom of the ages, and you get it into the hands of somebody who's hungry, that wants to read and improve themselves. And then you start reading books. Then you start making a little more money. You take the extra money and invest in more books. Invest your spare time into reading those books, and it's reading, filing, studying, preparing lessons. Then you take the stuff you learn, you put it on 3x5 cards, you put it in files, you put it in emails, you start sending text messages to people about the things that you're learning. You start memorizing quotes from famous people that have done amazing things throughout their life. And then you start to get these quotes going through your head. You start remembering quotes. You start telling. I had somebody the other day say, where do you get all these quotes? I'm like, I read regularly for 3 decades because I didn't want to be a freaking moron my whole life like I was the first 20 years. And now I'm 50 years old, totally excited, had the best year of my entire life in 2025. 2025 was the best year of my entire life. It was very hard, but it was the best year of my life.
A lot of growth this year.
Tremendous amount of growth. It was like somebody bit me in.
The Spider-Man, right? The radioactive spider.
Radioactive spider bit me. If you get a chance, get a copy. Go down to your local library if you don't have the money to do it, and I understand if you don't. Go down and get yourself a copy of Success Through a Positive Mental Attitude by Napoleon Hill and W. Clement Stone. In the beginning of that book, the foreword is written by a man named Og Mandino, who went to work for W. Clement Stone. Originally, Napoleon Hill started a magazine called Success Magazine. And Success Magazine ended up becoming a magazine for salespeople. The continuation of Success Magazine happened to be through W. Clement Stone's insurance business. And down on his luck, in the foreword of that book, Og Mandino tells the story of being almost ready to kill himself at 35 years old. And he ends up getting this book, Success 5 Positive Mental Attitude, written by Napoleon Hill and W. Clement Stone. And he ends up getting a job, being an insurance guy. He gets a job for W. Clement Stone, publishing Success Magazine. It's either Success Magazine or Success Unlimited.
Yeah. And it's OG is Og.
OG.
OG, man. He's the OG Mandino.
Yep. And he ends up becoming the editor-in-chief and growing the circulation of Success Magazine, which later would employ Jack Canfield.
Jack Canfield
Went to work for...
Success Principles is the name of the book.
Success Principles. By the way, Darren Hardy was the publisher of Success Magazine after...
Jack Canfield went on to write Chicken Soup for the Soul and all that in the
Correct.
In the
Jack Canfield
90s.
made hundreds of millions of dollars.
Yeah.
I mean, ridiculous.
Crazy
amount of money. Not that makes people happy once you have a certain point, but boy, it is sure nice to see what you can do when you have a few bucks and you can be productive. Our story is not over yet, ladies and gentlemen. I'm 50. Jessica's 39 again.
I'm 48.
48,
almost
almost
own it.
49. I'll be 51 here in a couple of weeks. But I can tell you that at 51, I am working harder, more hours, biphasic sleep, religious about time management, religious about scheduling, religious about using Kanban and standard operating procedures. And eventually we'll be pivoting this podcast from the Jeff Heilman Project, which is a little bit more general, to actually the daily operating system and digital founders operating system podcast, which will be focused on products that we'll be making available on both the website and through the email newsletter, which will come out in order to help people have the kinds of tools where they can apply things like Kanban, OODA loops, standard operating procedures, things like constraint theory, something that I call option 3, which is the delta between the sympathetic, parasympathetic nervous system once mental toughness kicks in, and frame control, laws of power, seduction principles in helping people get deals across the line when they're dealing with fear of commitment on things. These are the types of tools that we're going to start talking about on these podcasts, which are all frameworks, tools, models, which have helped me to become successful in business, It's helped Jessica be successful in raising and homeschooling 7 kids and running her business. You've got a new business that you're going to be launching here, Evergreen 15.
15 Evergreen.
15
You're
Evergreen.
close.
15 Evergreen. We got kids getting brand deals now. Ashi just got his first brand deal from a customer. Madeline's got a couple of multi-million view TikTok views. Andrew's doing stuff and content. Teddy's got 100 subscribers on his YouTube channel. Probably more people watching him than watching this. So we are all about digital business, founding the digital business, figuring out how to run it, figuring out what to do when you don't go to an office. And we're just performing in order to be a force to be reckoned with as a family. And we look forward to helping you in your journey as a digital founder of whatever business you're going to be running. And just know that you can go from rags to riches. You can go from being broke. You can go without having a car to having a Mercedes. You can go from not having a house to living in fanciest neighborhood in your town. We are a real life success story, and we care about doing what's right to protect people, to raise our kids in a great environment, and hopefully provide a little bit of education, a little bit of nuggets of ideas on how you can duplicate the same thing. And I'm telling you, the answers are out there. If you just keep looking, knock and the door shall be open, seek and you shall find. The answers are out there if you're willing to do the work. Hope you're well, everybody. Thanks for joining us here on the Jeff Heilman Project.
See you next time.
See you later.